What up everyone, Shark here, welcome back to the channel. Have another 1v1 in the level up series for you today between two extremely well matched Australian players. So on the allied side we have YOMAMMA playing as the Americans, about 1250 elo, rank number 355. His opponent playing as the DAK is Mr. Gizard, the Lizard Wizard. Sorry, love that name. Also 1250 elo, rank number 259. These players are going to go head to head on twin beaches here and try some interesting things out. As with the last one, we're going to really focus on feedback and takeaways so that they can get just a little bit better, but they're both already excellent players. Casting this one with me is my boy Garrett, aka TurtleWar. Link to his channel in the description below. And with that, let's get to it. So on the west side of the map, bottom of the screen in blue, playing the DAK, we have Mr. Gizard, the Lizard Wizard. All right, that's a name and a half. Going CoH3 into 2nd Panzer Pioneer opening. Opposite him in red, playing U.S. Forces, is YOMAMMA. I didn't know she was so good at Company of Heroes. Getting an engineer and a barracks out right away. So this looks, at least on the U.S. side, almost like last patch meta, right, in ones, where you get an engineer, and now he's going for a Jeep. So I will reserve judgment on that part of the build just because I want to see where he's going with it. And then I like the idea on the DAK side of getting the CoH3 out to get some capping power here. And it looks like we're going to see 250, so that would explain why you get a 2nd Panzer Pioneer as opposed to Panzer Grenadier opening. Also, Mr. Gizard has locked in the Espionage Battlegroup. So Garrett, what do you think of this? If you're going to play highly mechanized but then choose the Battlefield Espionage Battlegroup, are you working against its strengths there?
Yeah, I'm not sure what he's going for.
Yeah,
but
I've seen it where you go heavy Panzer Grenadiers initially, support it with the Espionage Battlegroup, and then go mechanized like tier 3.
Yeah. Maybe he just wants to. I don't know if he plans on converting this first 250 into a Funk Panzer wagon, or...
That would make sense. It's just really early to invest in the 250. You know, the Jeep, I think, was trying to hunt down the CoH3, but got caught in bad position, took a bunch of damage, and is now just going to escort these scouts over here onto the fuel point.
I'd say this DAK build is at least fairly meta for team games. I like to start with a Crad and a 250 a lot. But going for the... Now he's going for Panzer Grens. I usually don't do that. He has enough fuel to tech up.
Yeah. So one thing I have noticed, I will say, from Company of Heroes 2, I was always trying to tech as fast as possible, like as soon as I had the fuel. I have found in CoH3 that sometimes it's advantageous to wait a minute or two to get that additional combat unit on the field before you tech, especially with DAK, because you hit 35 fuel so fast, but you need the combat power. So the scouts forced away by the 250. Engineers, the CoH3 has to be careful. Engineers do a ton of damage to these ultralights since they're the long burst length from their grease guns just chews through them. Wow, these rifles annihilating the Panzer Pioneers.
YOMAMMA has had some pretty good... He hasn't had success with it yet, but I see what he's trying to do with the Jeep. He is trying to hunt down that Crad, and he's hungry. He's going for him right now. Yeah, although he has put his rifle squad in danger, and they are almost certainly going to go down here if the 250 can flip around and get some shots off. Another rifle squad has come to contest, and Mr. Gizard going to let that rifle squad get away. That's a big missed opportunity there. He's going for the Jeep.
And that rifle, what is the health on that guy? I gotta check this out. Is that 6 HP? Holy cow. Alright. The Jeep rolling around on low health. The 250 halfway down, the CROD getting repaired in its HQ. I'd say you could repair it on the fuel point, but the engineers pushed it off, and now the rifle's here holding this center fuel. Oh! They sniped the one model that was standing in the circle, and I don't know if YOMAMMA noticed, but he's now no longer capping that fuel. There he goes. They're going to bleed a lot to these Panzer Grenadiers, especially now they have the combined arms bonus. He manages to capture the fuel, and it's almost immediately going to be decapped. And also, you know, Garrett, the recent patch changes to the length of time to decap and capture. It's skewed heavily in favor of decapping. So I don't know that that play makes as much sense as it might have used to.
Yeah, I was going to say you can make an argument that that really was a bad engagement right there. He should have just pulled out the second those P-Grens got the combined arm bonus.
Yeah. Well, rifles now... Actually, this is better, forcing the Panzer Grenadiers to drive up and try to take this ground. But they are going to bleed models, and the P-Grens wisely getting into the 250 so they don't drop any more health. And with the onboard medics, they'll basically slowly heal over time. Plus, right now, with these Pyos, he could probably just pop the half-track healing out of combat. MG34 now for Mr. Gizard. And
yeah, Gizard...
He's floating so much. Go ahead.
He ended up waiting. Yeah, he ended up waiting to tech, but he just ended up teching T1. I thought maybe he was going to go for mechanized, but he went for the light support still after floating for a while.
Yeah, and he hasn't chosen fire support element, so he could still build his tier 2 here. He's building another machine gun. Meanwhile, YOMAMMA going for a Zook squad. Not a bad choice considering kind of the light vehicles on the field, and honestly, against DAK, a Zook squad or 2 is always a good idea. He still has not chosen a battle group, and he's going infantry support center, so we'll see the captain here relatively soon. The second MG34, I think, is really interesting.
Especially in ones. I think that's it's hard to get your use out of machine guns, HMGs in ones.
Yeah. Plus, so Mr. Gizard has gone for the transfer station instead of plunder. Now he's doing just fine on manpower at the moment. Oh, nice mine. Claims the Krodschützen.
Rip.
Oof. Oh, nice free kill there for YOMAMMA. Good aggressive mine placement. MG34, a good long burst onto this Jeep. What were you saying? The assault grenadier mechanized group?
Yeah, he's calling in that. Has he, I guess I should check, has Gizard done any upgrades yet?
No, he has not. You got the panels down at the bottom that allow you to check that, which is pretty handy. So thanks, Relic. Thank you for that. He's also using the Vet 1 on these Panzer Grenadiers to speed the capture rate, which is why he's got them in this 250 as he's driving around. So a good use of some of the more advanced abilities, totally cutting off this fuel point here with the Assault Grenadiers. Now, the Assault Grenadiers get out, but don't get the Assault Disembark bonus? Oh, 250. No, that's not the way you want to leave. There you go. Oh, grenades? Big hits onto the Zooks, just one model left. Thank God those Assault Grenadiers only have MP40s, otherwise that might have been the end of that Zook squad. The Assault Grenadiers already hit Vet 1. That was a pretty solid grenade barrage there.
That was a good throw. And good move on the cutoff right there. He had kind of he'd lost control of this bottom half of the fuels for a good portion of the game so far.
I think it's really interesting. You see Mr. Gizard has popped a minesweeper on one of his Panzer Pioneer squads. Probably a reaction to the Krodschützen get knocked out by a mine. And then we see a transfer depot over here on the fuel point. So it looks like you not only get the benefit of the cash on that fuel point, but then it gives you the opportunity to swap that fuel for manpower, which can be really, really helpful for DAK.
You know, that's interesting. I have never, not once, built this transfer depot. This is the first time I've seen it in a match.
I hate to admit it, but same. I normally go for the plunder. I find that when you're playing heavily with Panzer Grenadiers, they get the 2 weapon slots. And so you can get the MG34 LMG on them and then pick up plunder or weapon. So YOMAMMA, he built the weapon support center, got a single Zook squad out, and now has gone motor pool and gotten a Greyhound. Both players with pretty solid fuel income, but that's what you'd expect from Twin Beaches. Oh, wow. Mr. Gizard has put another transfer depot down and just redeemed 240 manpower from it on this high munitions point, and he's using assault grenadiers and MG34 to try to protect it. The Greyhound, though, going to come challenge. 3 grenades onto the engineers, force them away but don't do a ton of damage. Now Panzerjägers have hit the field. Can they get out here to challenge this Greyhound in time? Honestly, though, this is probably a good map for the transfer depot play. One, because the resources are already so high, and then 2, you've got like this +10 fuel right by your base sector. That's really hard for the enemy to come and contest without overextending. So I like the thought process there, although the high munitions transfer depot is about to get knocked out. Got a little Panzerjäger track coming for him.
Yeah, that, you know, in hindsight, that may not have been the best spot to put the Muni transfer depot. Maybe that one right next to that, the base sector, could have been better.
Although, look at this, the Panzerjäger track has forced it off, and now you've got engineers making repairs, so he's going to keep that thing alive. These low-health Panzer Grenadiers, the threat of a snare enough to force the Greyhound away. This is one of the reasons, and I know Orange Pest says I've been tough on US Tier 3. It looks like we're seeing BARs for these rifles as well. But the Greyhound, it doesn't hit the field, and and the Panzerjäger squad goes down in the half track.
Oh man.
That's a huge pickup. Combination of the Greyhound and the Zooks. I just think with the fuel, with the cost changes, the Greyhound is not anywhere near as efficient or effective as it was in previous versions of the game.
I think it's tough too because it was in the previous cycle. It was very strong, and so to go from probably the strongest it's been to where it's at now feels like a downgrade.
Nice grenade throw in, and then a smoke to buy them some time. And Mr. Gizard has not only teched Tier 4, but he has gotten a Flak 36 out to deal with a Greyhound and a Jeep. I'm a little bit at a loss for words. Do you think he's just worried about fuel control and potentially like allied tanks hitting the field? This seems so preemptive.
It does. I'd say if there's one thought process he could have, it's that he's also getting the 2.5-ton truck to convert to healing. So maybe that was the route he wants to go. Is he wants to get healing in base now as well? Yeah. Nice pickup. The Zook squad with the white phosphorus come out with the Greyhound, grab that MG34. And then interesting battle group choice. He's unlocked the disruption operation, but not yet the Funkwagen. And he's got that spare 250, so you could definitely make use of it. Meanwhile, YOMAMMA also building his Tier 4 now. YOMAMMA is still hasn't picked a battle group yet either. It's funny to say.
Yeah, I'm trying to think with the airborne. You got the rocket strafe, but that'll probably, even with the Flak 36 on the field, that'll come in. Same with the carpet bombing. And YOMAMMA, the captain is on the field, so he knows he's not facing ASC. So the only reason I can think, and you haven't seen special operations, so the only reason I can think that you'd want the Flak 36 is to deal with some of these vehicles. Oh, big hit from the 36, and they get a snare off. Well, the Greyhound's almost dead, not quite. Could they get some rear armor penetrations here? You almost... Man, if he had unlocked the incendiary munitions, the incendiary AT munitions, instead of the disruption operation, that would have been the end of that Greyhound.
Now he's playing very aggressive with his flak. He's putting it... Oh my god.
Yeah, I just noticed something. YOMAMMA canceled his tank depot. So he's back to floating a ton of fuel. Mr. Gizard getting a P3 out on the way now. He's done veteran squad leaders. but no other upgrades. And so, yeah, I wonder if he's going to make use of this transfer depot. Maybe redeem some of these munitions for some more manpower, start unlocking upgrades, especially for to make the P3 more viable. But there's no real AT on the field at all for YOMAMMA. She is not interested, even though she has the she has the motor pool, but no AT guns yet. So this P3 could run wild here for a minute.
Tank depot's coming back up now. I think they had canceled it to build an extra rifleman squad, it looks like.
Yeah. That I'm a little confused about the build order choices here. You know, I think if you're really worried this P3 hits the field, the Flak 36 obviously means that the DAK tier 4 is on the field. You're worried about vehicles, maybe since you already have the motor pool, you go armored, you get War Machine, you start getting a Chaffee or two out to go with your Greyhound. And then you look at the Easy 8 Paulin. But he's gotten that center fuel back, so he should be in a decent spot. Meanwhile, Mr. Gizard contesting the northern cutoff, taking a couple of mortar rounds, but not any real damage. And this good assault grenadier push here. And Mr. Gizard's also unlocked those disruption beacons, so he could easily use the Pioneer's plop one down here and give him that ambush camouflage bonus, first strike bonus, as YOMAMMA tries to leave the base sector. MG34 set up, covering the VP. Okay, now we're seeing a disruption operation here. B3's gonna push up. I'm actually really interested in seeing what he can see and can't see.
He can't see any of the units on the mini-map.
And he can only see, he's taken fire from the P3, so he can see when he takes hits from it. But yeah, vision really disrupted, so that's interesting. I know I've tried that a couple of times, but especially like when you're the one using it, it's not apparent what it really does for you.
It's hard to tell, yeah. Oh, this Greyhound may be done for. Oh,
but it still hasn't taken any damage. There we go, a couple Zook shots in on the P3.
Black missed. Oh man.
Oh, and now the scouts on the Flak. I don't think it really needs to pack up. Those scouts are not a threat, especially with assault guns and pincer guns around. But the Zook squad going to continue to get hits off on this P3. Wow. Almost knocked out. Walking Stuka now on the way. And now we see an M4 Sherman, the standard 75mm variety. So, man, would have been nice if that Flak was set up. Pigren's going to take a fair amount of damage on retreat. Where is the Walking Stuka hitting? I think it was aimed at where that MG was set up, but it's not anymore. And that's the thing about this map. Both players, despite the fact that they're contesting each other's fuel, it hasn't made a ton of difference. Both players relatively able to attack relatively easily. Both players with tanks on the field.
KD is almost dead even. VPs are almost dead even.
Yeah, we're gearing up for the long haul here. Greyhound pursues this MG34 with the canister rounds, but that won't do anything to the P3, which then whiffs its first shot. Nice use of the smoke here from the Sherman. I love that they added that to the standard M4 Sherman.
I agree. I'm a huge fan of that.
And it works so much smoother than the smoke on the Humber. The vehicle doesn't stop to launch the smoke. It continues to carry out its orders. So really, really useful smoke barrage. You can see some mines going down on the flank here.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for my mother to pick a battle group. I'm not sure what's going on here.
Yeah, vanilla USF is fine, but they get a lot of utility from a battle group. Mr. Gizard has upgraded vehicle survivability, He's got the manpower. There we go. He's been upgrading his battle group as well. So he's going for the Funkpanzerwagen and the AT, incendiary AT munitions. Oh, rifles push onto the flak here. And the truck moves up to tow it. But if they target the truck... Oh, and actually, it gets away because he didn't upgrade it to the med truck. So when you upgrade to the med truck, the truck actually loses 60 HP. 250 knocked out by the Sherman. Now the towing vehicle gets knocked out by the Sherman. Now the flak is sitting unmanned in the center. Walking Stuka barrage coming in. Wow, max range barrage onto these Zooks. Oh wow, last rocket comes in and clears the Zook squad. But the Sherman also picks up the Panzer Pioneer, so even trade there. And this other Pioneer,
they're in a bad spot.
Oh, they are done. Annihilated by scouts and a second Sherman on the cutoff. I feel like Mr. Gizard's got almost too much going on here across the map and is getting caught out and beat up in a couple of these engagements.
Yeah, you can just feel that he may have been a little distracted with everything just across the board there, and losing that 2.5-ton utility truck is pretty rough. He thought he had it safely out of distance, but it was just close enough to get picked off by that Sherman.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of those things in this game. If you've got the bandwidth, usually you see the players that are really good at using the TAK map, they're able to kind of manage multiple engagements simultaneously, and if you do it well, can give you a huge advantage over your adversary. Oh, this P3 does not have good health. Needs to get out of here. One more shot and it's done. The Flak 36 is going to be set up, but is not facing the right way. Oh no, another med truck may go down. Flak 36 gets a big hit off on one of the Shermans. Use that attack round, homie. Oh, good attack round, but it whiffs slightly, but it is enough to scare the Shermans away. So the med truck, the walking Stuka, and the P3 are going to get out of there. Another P3 hits the field. Panzergrenad's forced to retreat away from riflemen and Shermans. Alright, so YOMAMMA, they have finally chosen a battle group. It's gonna be Rangers.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and so he's selected, he's gone through most of the battle group with the exception of choosing weapons training versus the NPC assault. And so it really comes down to whether or not you want to use Rangers to drive that choice. But with the munitions cache option and the howitzer and all the resources that he's floating, plus the fact that his opponent has a Flak 36, I think an M2A1 howitzer is a no-brainer here. Mr. Gizard, he really needs, he's got a little bit of this manpower, plus he's got the transfer depot. I would love to see him redeem some munitions for some manpower. He's going for armored reserves, but get some manpower, get the emergency repair kits on your vehicles, get them that additional health so they can square up with the Sherman. The self-healing reduces the micro. Sherman knocks out the transfer depot in the corner. Yeah, because go ahead.
I was gonna say, for anyone watching it, if you're at that point where you have to get out multiple Panzer IIIs, you have to start upgrading them once you've made that investment. Otherwise, they're not gonna last long in the late game.
Yeah, 100%. The Panzer III is a decent tank, but it really becomes powerful when you have a bunch of them and they're fully upgraded. That's when it can really start to tangle with the Sherman. Now the upside is the Sherman's a good all-rounder tank, but it's not like you have to deal with swarms of Hellcats. So a couple of P3s, armored reserves, get an upgraded P4 out. There's some opportunities to work this back in. We are seeing the howitzer go up, and it's got free fire enabled as well. Walking Stuka barrages come in on the mortar, and it's cleared, and the mortar's destroyed. So huge barrage there from Mr. Gizard.
Yeah, and somehow this Stuka isn't Vet 1 yet, and I'm afraid it has to do probably with that, if you've seen that tightrope video, the explosions and the way they register kills.
Yeah.
It says it only has 3 kills, which we've seen it kill a lot more.
It literally just killed 4 people right then.
Yeah.
That's 100% gotta be it. So hopefully, I can't imagine what kind of programming error leads to that, but I'm sure it's not fun to untangle.
Yeah.
The other thing, I kind of think Mr. Gizard needs to consider keeping his P3s together. Because one-on-one, without the upgrades, the P3s are probably going to lose to those Shermans. And so if you keep them in a little bit of a pack, you'll do higher DPS. It just requires you to be very, very active with them. Finally, an AT gun coming out for your mother.
Gizard also has an MG34 just waiting to be reclaimed in the middle.
Yeah.
That's been bugging me looking at that. I'd like to see him pick that back up and just, you know, get that back on the field.
Especially when your opponent is now fielding multiple rifle squads. There's decent utility there. And Mr. Gizard going for another squad of Panzer Grenadiers late. Against rifles with BARs, he really needs to focus on getting them to vet up. Otherwise, they're just going to bleed. And bleed is... Oh, the free fire comes in from the M2A1. This Panzer Grenadier squad could go down here. I don't think Mr. Gizard saw it. 4 models chunked away. Walking Stuka comes in. Does decent chunk damage to the M2A1. Yeah, the first P3 forced away by the AT gun. Man, that Flak 36, the micro cost on that's so high, but especially with the AT or the incendiary munitions, when that thing hits, it really forces away these Shermans. Like, they can't stand more than 1 or 2 hits from it.
And if he used the beacons to camouflage it, it also gets a buff from that too, the first strike.
Yeah. So it does 240 damage per shot. Standard Sherman is 720 health, so 3 hits to knock out a Sherman. But like you said, with the first strike bonus, with the incendiary munitions, I think it's still 2 and change, but there's enough with the P3s on the field. You could really knock down these Shermans quickly. Oh, free bazooka on the ground. Maybe the assault grenadiers will pick it up. The free fire shot from the howitzer doesn't do a ton of damage. I think the howitzer is best when it hits Vet 1 and gets the charged shells. I mean, they even debuff vehicles. That can be really, truly savage. Oh, P-Grens take a huge amount of chunk damage from that shot. Panzer Grenadiers force away the AT gun. What is YOMAMMA waiting for here? Floating a ton of resources.
Playing a little defensively too. They're kind of letting themselves get pushed back.
I'd
love to see them use that howitzer to target the flak when it sets up, like it is right now.
Yeah. So they're pop capped, which is a big problem. I think this would be a good reason to potentially choose the NPC assault, because you essentially get that free manpower. Snare onto the med truck. Med truck going to be knocked out, so that Flak 36 is now stuck in a decent position, but now fully decrewed. Assault Grenadiers also in danger of going down. They're going to get picked up. Walking Stuka Barrage comes in, almost claims that rifle squad. On the flank, B3 goes down to Sherman and AT gun with the Flak 36 out of position. Man, things are not looking good for the Lizard Wizard over here.
Yeah, that was a nice counterattack by YOMAMMA. They kind of, I mean, that's what, over 1,000 manpower just killed right there. A P3, an assault gren, and the Flak 36 in the truck.
I wonder
Big
if
swing.
Can he even claim with his pop cap? I don't think he can even claim that Flak 36, which is kind of crazy. Grenade on the Panzer Grenadiers. Vet 3 rifles. Taking a fair amount of damage, but a Sherman's there to protect. Yeah, this Greyhound. I wonder what it's doing. I can't tell which veteran ability it chose. I'd say if it did the Raider ability, that can at least drive around the map decapping points.
He took the canister shot.
That's right, he did. That's right. YOMAMMA continuing to apply pressure to the fuel here. I think neither player has realized just how much fuel is on this map and how little that fuel harassment matters in the grand scheme of things. There's a big walking Stuka barrage, or at least the sound from it. I can't see what it's hitting.
The rifleman squad on the Gizard's fuel ate that Stuka barrage, I believe.
Okay.
They're still fine. But the P3 has been just running around the map, terrorizing anything it finds.
Yeah. Well, Sherman, I thought that shot hit, but apparently it whiffed. You've got a Hellcat coming onto the field now. AT gun team was cleared. There's enough pop cap space for YOMAMMA to get a Hellcat out now. And I think we're going to see a Tiger here. That'd be my guess for Mr. Gizard.
That's what I'd hope for, because they still, the only upgrade they've done is a vehicle survival package. So
yeah.
Not.
And honestly, other than the, I mean, he's used the transfer depot, he's used the incendiary munitions, but not seeing this battle group played out kind of to the extent that you would hope. Barrage coming in probably on this rifle squad here. Oh, big hits to the Greyhound. Only one rifleman dropped, but the Greyhound very much hurting on health, has to back up for repairs. I think the Shermans have decided they're done. Oh, but he's using attack ground to target this Flak 36, which is doing no damage. So when you want to destroy a piece of equipment, use the hotkeys normally Q for like you would to attack move, and then click on the piece of equipment, and they'll destroy it directly. And you have much more success than attack ground trying to knock out a broken AT gun.
I do know that sometimes this game can bug out and it won't register the target when you attack move an AT gun like that. I've had that before, where it just refuses to recognize it and it won't fire. So I'm wondering if that's also what's happening over there.
It's very possible. I remember a game, this is a little while ago, where a Flak 36 got recrewed at it as it had like 0 health, so then it became invulnerable.
Yeah.
That was really tilting, because now there's an invincible Flak 36 in the middle of the map. Just a minor problem. Alright, Tiger is here on the field. Big first hit onto the rifles. Panzer Grenadiers coming across to try to support. The Shermans realize they're outmatched and start to back up. Another big shot onto these engineers who appear to be soft retreating. Black 36 is still available to be recaptured. Yeah, we're seeing another med truck. Oh, this MG34 caught out of position on the flank. Is that a Jeep towing an M1 AT gun around?
It's been towing the AT gun. I don't know if you forgot. It's been towing it, but it's been out on its. It's been towing it for a while.
I mean, great use of the towing mechanic. Walking Stuka barrage coming in on. I'm not sure what it was targeting. Looked like it was targeting some Shermans trying to be repaired.
It's cheap. Somehow survived.
Somehow. Well, the Tiger and the P3 wreaking havoc over here. The Shermans?
Oh no! Gizard. Sorry. He had a Pigrin squad that only had 2 models on it, and he used that to reclaim the Flak 36.
Oh no! Wow, between the Flak 36, the incendiary munitions, big hit from the Tiger, Hellcat's on its last legs, continuing to tick down in health. Now, I'm pretty sure that the incendiary munitions can't kill the vehicle, but they can take it down to nothing, which is where it's at. Looks like the P3 is thinking about going hunting. It takes a couple shots from the Sherman. P3 finds the Hellcat. Big pickup there. Tiger squaring up against the Shermans. Oh, big shot. And one of the Shermans goes down. Tiger hits vet 1. Still no upgrades. The Flak 36 now almost fully manned. You know, the med truck has the magic recrew ability where 2 guys just kind of spawn out of the back. Tiger is going to direct fire here onto this howitzer. Oh, it's decrewed, not destroyed. One more shot. Man, having the Tiger right outside your base, not pleasant. Greyhound trying to keep the P-Grens from capping this VP, but it looks like Mr. Gizard is going to get the triple cap here. Rifles pressure the Flak 36, but the Tiger is on their flank and retreat path, so this does not look great. Down to 2 models. Another Hellcat and a Sherman taking shots at the Tiger. It's trying to traverse its turret to shoot at the rifle squad, but can't do it. Oh, meanwhile, a squad of P-Grens goes down to the Greyhound. Oh, big walking Stuka barrage comes in. Engineers destroyed. This Sherman about to go down to the Tiger. Wow, Greyhound finds the walking Stuka. So Orange Pest going to make me eat my words here. The Greyhound's gotten a lot of late game utility. Another Hellcat hits the field. Tiger really out of position. Thank God the Flak 36 is there. And the Hellcat immediately forced to go back for repairs. The second shot whiffs, allowing it to survive for a little bit. Greyhound on the flank. Flak 36 gets a shot off.
Oh my God.
And is smoked by the P3. Another Hellcat knocked out as it goes to find the Tiger. Oh, and then the last Hellcat takes it from the Flak 36, again down to just a sliver of health. And I would say
an insane exchange.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Rifles pushing onto the P3, but he doesn't have grenades. So this is, he can't, oh, he does. He did tech on. I was going to say, oh no, Rifleman Squad cut down by the Tiger. The grenade goes onto the Flak 36, so it's then picked up. Tiger continues to just annihilate these rifles. The Jeep goes down to a mine, leaving the AT gun it was towing. And now a Krodschützen's here. Red saying, I think that's GG. I'm afraid it is, brother. You got tons of fuel, but no manpower, no units. And, down to 31 pop. Yeah, and so we're getting GG, well played across the board.
Love to see the sportsmanship.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I'm going to start with YOMAMMA's build here. Sorry, both of the names crack me up, and it shows you how immature I am that I keep laughing every time I read them. Okay, so he starts with scouts, engineers, barracks, Jeep, which is something you would almost expect to see if you're going to see an armored build. Then 2 rifles into weapon support center for a bazooka squad. I like this transition to the bazooka squad because of the DAK build that he is seeing, right? Krodschützen and 250 right off the rip. To me, that would almost drive me into investing more into the weapon support center, maybe a second Zook squad. Either way, he decides he wants to go the motor pool route. So you see infantry support center, motor pool, the M8 Greyhound, and then he kind of backtracks a little bit into tier 1, teching BARs, getting a mortar team out, and getting a 3rd rifle squad. The mortar is a good answer to the double MG34 build. I honestly think if he had stayed with tier 2, the weapon support center, and gone for the half tracks instead, gotten a couple of the 75 GMCs out, they can barrage, and the barrage hits like a pack howitzer. So there's some additional options there rather than the Greyhound. I'm still not sold on the Greyhound. It doesn't have the impact for him that you want in the early game, but he actually gets some big trades with it in the late game. So maybe it's worthwhile. Orange Pest, tell me while I'm wrong in the comments down below. From there, he goes Tank Depot, 2 M4A1 Shermans out. The Sherman has seen a lot more play with the upgrades to the machine guns and the addition of the smoke. I think it's a good choice against the DAK until the Tiger hits the field. He techs a grenade package. It's really late, but I think it's necessary. Right? Gives those rifle squads the ability to snare, which is what you really want. And then he finally chooses the advanced infantry battle group. He gets a M2A1 howitzer out on the field. I like this as a potential counter to the Flak 36. I like it as a counter to the MG34s on the field. It can be tough to bring off in a 1v1 between the pop cap and kind of how static it is, but it is fairly durable. You saw it took a hit from the Walking Stuka barrage and be okay. The problem is that he didn't have the anti-tank that he needed later because of this battle group choice. He does get an AT gun out. It ends up being towed around by the Jeep once it's decrewed for a considerable portion of the match. And then at the end of the game, you see him kind of spamming Hellcats there, trying to deal with the Tiger. From the battle group point of view, again, all the choices really late, but he unlocks Rangers, the designated assault position, the munitions cache, the howitzer, and the free fire. I think the free fire is good. He wasn't exactly flush on munitions, right? So you don't want the rapid fire barrage. Gets the free fire for the M2A1. You just got to remember that free fire is a benefit, but you still need to micro that howitzer and be calling barrages for it constantly. I really would have liked to see, honestly, when he was pop capped and he decided he wasn't going to play with the Rangers, pick up that NPC assault and use those guys to apply pressure to the DAK. You can basically set up a hammer and anvil style approach, especially on Twin Beaches where they can charge right up the middle, that allows you to flank elsewhere and start to impose some losses. And at this point, YOMAMMA was winning the game, so him being able to close it out, I think that would have been really, really valuable. If he decided he wanted to go for the side tech upgrades, that Ranger weapons training can be super useful, especially against a Tiger when you get Zooks on it. So quick little wrap up there. I know we're going to talk about it more once I get with Garrett. And now looking at Mr. Gizard, the Lizard Wizards build. It's interesting to me because he locks in Battlefield Espionage Battlegroup right away, but his initial build doesn't really reflect what you'd expect to see here. We're going to talk about this later in terms of like build choices, but it stood out to me that he chose it like right off the rip. Right, 2 Pioneers, Krodschützen, 250 half-track, Panzer Grenadiers, picks his battle group. Then he goes into Tier 2, the Light Support Company, gets 2 HMG teams, and then sits on fuel for quite a bit. I understand what he's doing with MG34s. He's worried about the rifles. I would rather see, I think, a flak verling. It has a lot. It scales up better. It's much more mobile. You can move around the map. You've already got some infantry on the field, especially with the assault mechanized group to deal with the rifles. That flak verling is much more of a nuisance. And even as it vets up, it can potentially deal with the Greyhound on the field. I think that might have been a better answer. Not that he necessarily needed the anti-air later, but it could have been a little bit more valuable, I think, than the MG34s, one of which ends up in YOMAMMA's hands anyway. From there, he builds Mechanized Company. I don't think he built a single thing from it. Builds Panzerjägers to deal with the Greyhound, then goes for Tier 4. The first thing that he builds is the Flak 36. The timing, I like that he's using it. I think it's a good choice. It's a little bit off meta. What's interesting to me is the timing of it, because at this point, YOMAMMA doesn't have really any armor on the field other than the Greyhound. So the Flak 36 is absolute overkill, and it becomes difficult to use with the unit that mobile. So it's a lot of wasted kind of manpower and fuel resources in that event. I would have rather seen, I think, a Panzer III, or if you're still dealing with all those infantry, the Stug D, which you have a Tier 3 up, you've got the fuel for it, why not go for the side tech? After the Flak 36, he gets a second squad of Panzer Grens out, goes for the veteran squad leaders, then he gets his Panzer III, he gets the vehicle survival package. One thought on this here, the smoke is really useful for the vehicle survival package, but you actually get more HP from the emergency repair kits, and the static repair is also super useful. Either way, with the transfer depots, he had more than enough manpower to do both. I would like to see, though, if you wait this long to do the vehicle upgrades, normally I go with emergency repair kits first, then the survival package, but it depends on kind of how you're playing. When your build is this infantry heavy, though, the smokes are less useful, and the more health and the self-repair is more useful, especially in ones when you have to micro across the map constantly. Then he goes Walking Stuka. This unit hopefully is not being slept on anymore. He uses it really well. He had like one early barrage. It didn't really do anything. After that, he was smashing units and team weapons with this. Highly recommend building a Walking Stuka into your build, especially in team games. It is devastating right now. He gets a couple of 2.5 ton med trucks, replacing the truck he was using to tow the Flak 36. just remember when you actually get the med truck, it has less health than the standard non-med upgrade truck that comes with the Flak 36 AT gun team. So when you call the Flak 36 on, if you leave that truck as is, which he did, it maintains, I think, about 60 more HP, so it can't be one shot by an AT gun or a main tank gun. He gets his second Panzer III out. Then he rolls into Armored Reserves. I think this is the right call. Gets a third squad of Panzer Grenadiers out. This is super late. They do scale well, but they really need veterancy. They need the LMG upgrade. Then he goes for the Tiger 1, and this is what really turns the match for him. The combination of the Tiger 1, the Panzer III, and the Flak 36, he's able to completely annihilate YOMAMMA's armor and really shove him back into the base and close this one out. So good choice there, good micro. The biggest thing that's missing here are a lot of the upgrades that are available to DAK. We're going to talk about that later for sure. And then looking at his battle group choices, he starts with the right side of the tree, disruption beacons, transfer depot, disruption operation. He uses the disruption operation a couple of times. I still don't know exactly how effective it is, but it was cool to see it get used. Transfer depot, lots of opportunity there. I like the choice. This is a good map for it. It's high resources. You got a couple of points close to your base. Would have liked to see him use it more to enable the upgrades. And then the disruption beacon, your floating manpower, you got the transfer depot. Throw a couple of those down, especially just to throw off the enemy's engagements. I think it could have been helpful, could have been used. He techs the left side of the tree late, gets the Funkwagen, doesn't build one. The incendiary munitions on the AT side, like that really, really helps him. And so it makes that Flak 36 count for more. Normally when you see people go for this battle group, they also build a number of the Pak 38s because they benefit so much from these rounds. The problem is he never teched fire support or support armor elements, so he never had access to the Pak 38. Then finally, the Operation Scorpion, he doesn't unlock it. I don't know that it would have been all that useful for him either way. So that's it for the build orders. All right, let's grab Garrett and get into the larger discussion. All right, I'm back here with Garrett. So Garrett, what was the biggest takeaway for you here? What threw the game in Mr. Gizard's favor?
There's a couple things, but I think one of the biggest handicaps that YOMAMMA faced that kind of restricted him at the end was just he got pop capped, and while it's not necessarily bad to be pop capped, it means you got a full force out there. I think though he was pop capped with a lot of units that weren't. It wasn't the right makeup. Mm-hmm. Yeah, these units were kind of effective. Like the Greyhound was effective. Got to Vet 3. He had 2 Shermans out there. He had a lot of riflemen. But I think towards the end of the game, those just that wasn't what he needed to win. I think a couple of the Zook squads, the team weapons, having the Jeep late that late in the game. I don't know if he even upgraded the Jeep to the commander for the detection.
I don't think
because that's the only reason why I'd keep that thing into the late game is for the radar ability. But you could almost you're looking back and I think he could have maybe just went for 1 Sherman. The rest of the tanks he could have produced after that, maybe Hellcats, and that could have given him a better makeup, a better fight for that end game.
Yeah, I was thinking about because normally I would recommend a couple of Hellcats and a Bulldozer over multiple Shermans, unless you're going easy 8. I do like the smoke on the new Sherman, and so when you saw the Flak 36, having the Sherman be able to smoke it anytime it's set up, I think is really helpful. So I'm not totally against that choice. I think my biggest issue with his actions when he was pop capped is he had options available to him to continue to apply pressure, and he didn't. So first and foremost, both players really didn't make use of their global upgrades the way they could have. ISC, especially when you're floating a ton of fuel, the survivability can be really helpful. The advanced logistics, so that as you drop models, it doesn't cost you as much in manpower, and that allows you to recover from mistakes in the late game. The munitions surplus, the big mine. When you think about what you're playing against with DAK, especially late in the game, it's going to be heavy armor. You saw the Flak 36 at like the 11-minute mark. So you knew he had tier 4 out. When you don't see a lot of fuel sinks, you got to be worried about a Tiger hitting the field. Like, what's your answer for AT? In that case, I think getting a couple big mines on the field might have been a better answer or better use of the pop capped fuel than some of the other things that he did, kind of spreading out. A single AT gun not going to be enough. You're going to want multiple, but that costs you against population, right?
Yeah, and I'm not sure. Again, I don't think there's one single unit he built that kind of doomed him, but I'm not too positive about the howitzer, if that was the best decision with what he had. I don't even know if he really got much use out of it. I feel like we saw a couple hits, but I don't know if it was as powerful as he needed it to be there towards the end.
Yeah, I think if you use that to constantly harass the Flak 36, like anytime you see it set up, you call a barrage on it. I think that's where it becomes most useful. Part of me wants to say, okay, let's assume that you're going to choose advanced infantry and this is the way that you want to play. Like, how would you make it work? I think in that case, you got to be much more diligent in your micro with the howitzer. That howitzer is phenomenal in 1v1s with its range, its vet abilities. If you don't have anything for it to do, bombard the enemy's base sector. Like, I can't believe I'm saying that, but it works in a 1v1 when you force a retreat and then annihilate some units, especially against the DAK, who don't rely on team weapons as much as Wehrmacht. I think he missed out by not making a final battle group choice. When you're pop capped, the NPC assault can be a huge boost. Think about sending those guys right up the gut and then using your actual army off on the flank to just try to like collapse the enemy's position. There's a lot of utility there. You're floating fuel, but if you want to use NPC assault, they have bazookas, so get the improved rockets. They'll do more damage. They could take out a Panzer III without much of an issue. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is if you do go advanced logistics, if you do go survivability, now you can really afford Rangers. Get a couple weapons drops in there, right? Get the weapon training. And now that Tiger is not so scary because every bazooka shot that hits it stuns it. Now you can come after it with your 1 or 2 Shermans, your 1 or 2 Hellcats. And I think, we talk about this a little bit. That's the biggest difference between these guys who clearly understand. Like, they know how to play, they know how to micro, they know how to use abilities. That's the difference between them and like the guys in the top 50, top 100 that just win constantly. Is they're much more purposeful in what choices they make and then how they employ them to gain the best possible advantage. Respect to these guys. The disruption operation, he used it 2 or 3 times. I've never seen it used. Still hard for me to tell like what the impact was. But I mean, they're using the abilities that they have. They're just not using them as efficiently as you could, I think.
No, yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, you want your build to synergize with each other, and the upgrades is a huge part of that. That's why I love playing Brits so much. The upgrades are pretty simple. You got 4 upgrades, and they apply across the board to general units, and I love that. So it makes it a lot easier when you're playing Brits.
Yeah, that's fair. And sometimes not choosing gives you flexibility later. That was one thing I thought YOMAMMA did well by delaying the decision and playing kind of vanilla. They had options in the late game, but to your point, they didn't necessarily make the best use of the options that they chose. The other option there that we can talk about is if you are pop capped and you haven't chosen a battle group and you've got a bunch of vehicles on the field, why not go with armored? Go strength and steel. It literally reduces the pop cap of your vehicles, and then you can get another one out. War machine to cut down on manpower costs. Like, there are a lot of options there. And so it wasn't clear to me watching the game exactly what was driving some of the decisions.
I think, we were a little confused by it at first, but by the end of it, Gizard he kind of ended up doing that with his, he got the Flak 36 out, and then later on, eventually, he did get the incendiary upgrade from the battle group, which kind of helped him win the game. I mean, that last engagement, that Tiger had like 100 health. Any, one shot from any of those Hellcats would have taken it out, but he dropped the Flak right there, down next to the Tiger, and that fended off those last 2 Hellcats, and that swung the engagement in his favor.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because exactly right. We were confused by his build, the fact that he immediately chose Espionage, but didn't seem to be playing very heavily with infantry. He had a mix. He didn't use the normal stealth abilities that you expect to see from the Espionage battle group, but really good use of the incendiary munitions, and then also the transfer depots. I would have liked to see him use them more and use them to try to get some of those DAK upgrades, but still good use of it. And so you saw some synergy with the build that in the battle group in a way that made sense in the long run, even though in the beginning I was definitely scratching my head. There's nothing wrong with playing vanilla and just saying, I just want to use one or two abilities from this battle group. So I guess I shouldn't really complain. I just was very confused watching it for the first couple minutes.
Yeah.
All right, what else here? I thought, honestly, the individual micro was pretty good from both players. I think both players kind of showed cracks in their armor when it came to multiple engagements across the map. That's normal. That's called being a human. This is why I've been saying for years that Ray needs to get nerfed. His ability to just micro everywhere at the same time is honestly,
that's not fair.
It's OP, right? But that's something to use to your advantage as you get better. I haven't seen. We're not looking at the first person view, so I don't know what these guys are using for a control mechanism. Basically, what I've seen, there are two ways that the really high level players control their units. One is to aggressively use the TAK map to maintain situational awareness. The other is to use control groups and just constantly spam the double click on the control groups to zoom around the map and manage multiple engagements. I found more luck with the TAK map method, but I don't know if you have any thoughts or that. But it wasn't obvious to me that the players are using one method or the other, but we did see both some dropped squads, some dropped engagements that you wouldn't normally see from guys like Havoc or Orange Pest.
Yeah, and I'd recommend one of the things I made note of, because I saw this a couple times from both players through the game. Yeah, their micro was good. I don't think it was bad, but a couple of times when they had injured like a low health armor vehicle, they would pull it back a little bit, but not totally out of the engagement. Mm-hmm. Which, if your micro is good, I could see. I do that. Now when I was. Because you move it around. But if you're not confident in your micro and you have an injured vehicle, always send it back to base. Just right click back to base, just so you're positive it's out of the fight. Because we saw a couple vehicles that were low health and they got sniped. I think it was that Hellcat. He pulled it out to the sides instead of back to his base, and so when that P3 swung around, it just got one shot right off and took out that Hellcat. And that stuff like that could be avoided if you're not very confident in your micro. Just send it back to base as the most direct route. Don't try to pull it out a little bit.
No, you're exactly right. And I actually remember seeing the Panzer III from Mr. Gizard do the same thing. He actually threw it on hold fire, right, which is a more advanced mechanic to try to keep it safe longer. But then again, only backed it up a little bit. I think it ended up surviving. But it was a higher risk situation than maybe you'd want, especially with the best unit you have on the field at that moment. Garrett, you got anything else for these guys?
No, that's all. That was a fun match to watch. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a good game. It was a slugfest for both sides. I do want to emphasize, these are good players. They clearly understand the game. We're just trying to offer some feedback. And honestly, I could probably apply most of it to myself, but just to take their game, our game, to the next level. So thanks for your time, Garrett. This is a lot of fun. That's going to do it for us here, everyone. And we'll see y'all in the next one.